start on their backs with the strap, okay? So I'll show that in one moment. We've got 2 blocks, we've got a silver yamuna ball, or whatever color you like, a bolster, and 2 cat balls. So those of us that have cat balls, we're just going to start by walking out our feet on these cat balls. The less pressure you put on those balls, the less intense. If you do not have cat balls, you guys have a strap, you're going to do something different. So for the home audience at home, you can do double intense leg stretch, right? And you're going to do that, and you're going to do a little flexing and pointing here, and then just holding, but holding with your feet at hips distance apart. So instead of feet together, hips distance apart, and you're just going to hold there with a neutral pelvis if you don't have cat balls. So those of us that are doing the cat ball version, if you have a stick, you can do a stick at home too. Just kind of going all over the feet. I try and keep roughly my feet at hips distance apart if I can. And I just kind of get into all those spots, right, just to kind of warm up. And then I like to get a little bit technical about it. So let's start at the heel, like the high arch. You can either start at this arch or this arch, but today we're going to start at the high arch. So I'm going to start with my balls here, and then you can see where there's the pad of my foot, and then there's the arch of my foot, and I'm going to do this as much as I can through the arch, right? As much as you can. So you start at your inner high arch, get it as close to the heel as you can, and then you go to the middle, and you move it over to kind of the pad, and then you bring it up. Little bend in the knees, and then you bring it in towards the right toe mound, kind of like you're drawing an ear, and then you take it around again. And then once you've done kind of that ear shape, then try and do the arch like as a whole. So you can even just like kind of roll a bit to find a spot. I'm gonna mute these guys out. Muting you guys, speak up if you need to. And then let's spend a little bit of time on our heel. So if we took our heel, and let's start just by breaking it into 4. Like you put a plus sign, right? So you've got an inner back heel, you've got an outer back heel, you've got an inner upper heel, you've got an outer upper heel, right? Like so you've got 4 spots on your heel. Now take it to one of those parts on both feet. Doesn't matter which one. You don't have to be that technical. And just hold there, bend your knees. See if you can lift up your toes. Good. And then see if you can bring it forward into another one of those quadrants or quarters. See if you can lift up your toes. Try to keep your toe mounds down if you can. And just noticing if one is tighter than the other. If you get the same movement in the toes as you did on the other. And then go to your other quadrant, but make them be the same on both feet. Again, you can put a lot of pressure or a little bit of pressure. You can try and lift up your toes. And then take them to the final quadrant. And you want to try and find a spot in your feet where you feel like you need to work. And it could be the high arch, but that's intense, right? So it could be the heel, could be the high arch, it could be a different spot, right? So spend the next few breaths just finding a spot in your feet that you're like, yeah, that's intense. And then find it symmetrically on both feet. If you can, you're going to find your feet at hips distance apart and your feet nice and straight. And then bend your knees a little bit. Make sure your knees aren't in, make sure your knees aren't out. Pull your belly in, bring your fingers to your shoulders, hold your shoulders, and let's just do a little bit of shoulder work here. Change direction with the circles. Let's bring those elbows to a shoulder's height, bring them to touch, open them. And then elbows out nice and wide, exhale elbows down, inhale elbows up. And then just let those arms come down, palms facing up, shoulders back. Take a few breaths here. And then step off your balls and just feel your feet nice and firm on the floor. Just close your eyes again, a little tiny bend in the knees. Feet are at hips distance apart. Center of the foot is in line with the center of the knee, which is in line with the hip bone. And big, beautiful breaths here. And let's bring our arms up halfway to a T. Let's internally rotate so our thumbs point down. We're going to bend our elbows. We're going to bring our hands to our sacrum. We're going to root those elbows forward. Just tuck your chin a little bit, root into the back of the skull. Bring your right ear down. Move the elbows forward, but think of the shoulder heads moving back. Just feel those feet on the floor. Rotate your chin towards that shoulder. Chin comes back up to center. Bring your opposite ear down. And rotate your chin. Again, push your hands into your pelvis. Push your elbows forward. Move your shoulder heads, the top of your shoulders in the front, back. And then chin comes back up to center. Release your palms forward one more time. Beautiful. And then we're going to come down onto the floor. So the healthiest way to transition is through like a bear pose. So the hands come to the knees, the butt goes back. We bend our knees as much as we can. We bring our hands down. We walk it out like a bear. We can either have our toes tucked to roll over into a squat onto our butt, or we can take our feet out to one side, our hands out to the other, being mindful of how much we bend into the knees to bring it around. So those of you on the wall, you can either use your foam roller, or you can do an intense leg stretch into the right leg going, right? So just one leg, and you're gonna do a 5-minute hold per side, which is gonna be so good for you, right? So when I'm rolling out my right butt, you're gonna do the right leg intense leg stretch. When I'm rolling out my left butt, you're gonna do the left leg. So if I've got wrist or hand stuff going on, I'm gonna use 2 blocks, right? I'm gonna have them handy, and we're gonna start just by putting that ball onto our right butt, and you can use blocks or not. I'm gonna start with my knees bent, and I'm just gonna roll out my right knee. And it doesn't have to be huge movements. And if my wrists are good to go, I don't have to use those blocks. And then I like to think about breaking my butt into 3 stripes. I've got an outer butt, an inner butt, and then like a middle butt and then an inner butt. So there's 3 stripes. And then you want to roll out your 3 stripes. This is where baggy clothes isn't the best option. So you've got your inner stripe, right? And you roll it out. You don't want to put too much weight on the tailbone. And you always want to keep the ball when you're rolling about a finger's length away from the knee. And then you want to go to the middle. And you can start to make these movements a little bigger. If the leg is straight, it's more intense. I like to always keep contact with the ball. So if I'm moving, I kind of hold the ball to my leg, to move. I like to roll right onto the back of my pelvis where it meets my low back. And this is where it starts to kick. Sweatshirt, so I gotta ditch it. There's a ball workshop this weekend, FYI. If anybody wants to come and like totally nerd out over balls. Right, we feel real good after a ball workshop. And then you go to that outer bit. Low back is really good. You've got back stuff going on. And then eventually I'm going to come on to that outer hip. And we might start with forward and back. We might do some circles. So you just kind of explore your own hip, right? The more of a 90-degree angle you are, the more intense it's going to be. So this is a 90-degree angle, right? If I'm back here at a 120 angle, it's going to be less intense. If my knee is bent, it's less intense. If my leg is straight, it's more intense. If my foot is on the floor, it's less intense. And then eventually you come onto that outer leg. Now if I'm working my quads, I like to almost externally rotate and I get the quad, right? So instead of just being on the IT band, see how I do that? But I want to be mindful I'm not rolling into the knee. Does that make sense, Marissa? So instead of just being on, so here I'm on my IT band, if I kind of roll my leg, I can start to get my quad and it's intense. Yeah. And then I can get it right into this attachment point, where if I've been doing, biking, hiking, skiing, lifting, but I could also be here, right, with a bent knee is kind of the starting point. And there's no right, there's no wrong, it's just fascial release. And you just find a spot. It's too hard. Yeah, too hard isn't fun unless you want it too hard. The softer the ball, the gentler it is. Right, so a straight leg is going to be more intense. If I want less, I could come up a little bit. Right, if I'm on 2 elbows, it's more intense. And then find a spot where you want to hold and breathe. Good. And then let's see if we can point and flex. Right, we can do this on the floor too. We don't have to have that extra weight. We could come off the ball or the roller. If you're doing it on the roller, it's a lot. I'm a big fan of balls. And then point your foot, nice big slow circles. Change direction with the circles. And then we're going to flex, sole of the foot flat. And then keeping the sole of the foot flat, we're going to curl the toes like you're holding onto a pencil. And then we're going to point the foot like a dancer. And then we're going to flip the toes back to us. Flex, curl, point, and flip. One more round. Flex, curl, point, and then flip to hold that Barbie foot. That Barbie foot where we're pointing, flipping the toes is amazing for our knees. And then if the balance is there, you might even dribble a ball a little bit. If not, don't worry. You can do that with a bent knee. It doesn't have to be so epic, right? Just see what you got. And then lift the hold. Wherever you get to is great, right? No agenda. And then up you come and other booty. So Dwayne, other leg. I'm getting a new camera for Zoomers with new, what do you call that when they can hear you? Microphones. I had a really nice one, and then over like Christmas last year, the kids took my phone and it danced. What's that? I don't wear the 20s lifestyle. And then apparently, and I've talked to a lot of people that wear those things for work now because they work from home, and people are going more deaf. And I noticed it right away because it heat, and then I'm exercising, and wax was, I'm like, I don't want to ruin my body for Zoom, right? Especially my hearing. I'm already challenged. What's that? There is ear yoga. But of course it's my business and I never do it. Right? We all have our shit. So if we wanted to, we could do longer strokes, right down the back of the pelvis. And then eventually coming onto that left outer hip. And again, you can be further up, you can be further down. You could do circles. Use your fingers, use your palms. If you're worried about your wrists at all, just use, I like to block at the medium height. And that strengthens your hands. It's not a cheat. And then maybe you come onto an elbow. Maybe you start to go up and down that IT bend. Maybe you do a little bit of an external rotation to get that outer quad, which is really good. And then just take the next few breaths to find a spot. Find your spot. Both elbows down is more intense. Hands up is less. That knee, foot down is less. More of like an opening through the hip flexor would be less. So again, you can adjust to the depth you need. And then we're going to point and flex that foot. And then we're going to point that foot and draw nice big circles. So today's full moon is auspicious, right? It's apparently March, and the full moon is when we're supposed to really dive forward into new beginnings. And so when it's a full moon, it's reflective, right? So we look back and we think of, the intentions for our life, whether it's the intentions for this week, this day, this year, this lifetime, this season of my life, change direction with the circles. And then we ask ourselves if we're keeping those promises, right? So if my promise is I want to be 90 and be able to walk freely, pick up my grandkids, then, we have to set intentions in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s to reach that goal, right? So then each month at the full moon, we kind of ask ourselves, what were my goals that I set for this month, this year, this lifetime? And am I keeping those promises to myself to help me reach that goal? And then stopping with the circles, flex, curl, point, and flip. Flex, curl, point, and flip. Flex, curl, point, and flip to hold. And just breathe there. These big, beautiful breaths. There's more important promises than other promises, right? And so if the unimportant promises are getting in the way of the real important stuff, then we again have to reassess. And that's what we do at the full moon. And generally, we don't work as hard. We do a more mellow practice. Anybody who's an emergency room doctor or a police officer or a kindergarten teacher knows that people get a little cray-cray around the moon because the energy gets a little cray-cray. And we, in our yoga practice, don't want to get a little crazy and overdo it, so we do less on a full moon. It's also nice to schedule doing less. Maybe you can bring that leg up and down. And so pushing into this opposite foot, it can be a big movement or a small movement. Just see what feels good. Nice, and then lift it up, hold it, push into those feet. Nice work, everybody. And release, beautiful. We're gonna come off our balls. Let's set ourselves up. We're gonna go medium height, low push for your tush, but if you don't need it, you don't need it. We're not going to be here very long. And then we're going to come down over our bolsters. So Dwayne, you've got 2 blocks, and this will be lovely for you, but if it feels like too much, don't do it. So you're going to do 1 block underneath your rib cage on low height. 1 block is a pillow on medium height, right? So you have the blocks down, and you just lay over it like that. So your supported fish will be a little less cushy, but really nice after a long flight. The rest of us are going to have the bolster and have the cush. So let's walk our feet in nice and close. Let's pick up our pelvis. Let's give it a little wiggle, and then let's bring our pelvis down. We're going to allow the feet to come together, and we're going to take the knees apart. And then we're going to take our hands to our inner thighs, and we're going to use our hands to open those inner thighs, and we're going to think about our legs pushing back onto our hands. Big inhales, big exhales. And then we're going to take our hands to our outer legs, and we're going to use our hands to squeeze the legs closed, and the inner legs are going to push back onto those hands. Big, beautiful breaths. So if we're working towards lunges in this practice, we want to really find the muscles that will help us stabilize our knees. And we also want to notice if it's easier to think about opening the legs or closing the legs, like which muscles are dominant. So bring your hands back to the insides. And so if this is harder, right, then we want to work those external muscles. We want to think about our knees not coming together. And then finding the other one, hands on the outside. And then push into your feet, lift up your pelvis without moving your rib cage traction. Pull your pelvis away from your low back, then bring your pelvis back down. Maybe the soles of the feet can clap, maybe the knees can come apart. You can have your hands on your body or your arms beside you, palms up, whatever you fancy, and just let the body melt over the bolster, over the floor. Big inhales, big exhales. Now push the soles of the feet to one another. Find your big toe mounds, so that base of the foot where the toes touch the foot, find those big toe mounds and squeeze them. And then think about the muscles that open and close the legs, and just find a little bit of movement of opening and closing the legs. And then find a place where it's sustainable, where you can open and close your legs at the same time as if there were hands there, but you're doing it without the hands. And just breathing here. Continuously focusing on your body from the inside, focusing on your breath. Feel the space within your skin. Noticing when you inhale that space expands. Noticing when you exhale, that space contracts. Now go to your nostrils, that opening at the base of your nose, and think about expanding your nostrils, much like a bull would expand your nostrils, as if there were marbles or grapes inside your nose, and you were trying to take the ridges of your nose off that fruit or vegetable and expand. Try and keep that expansion as you continue to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. What is it you're trying to create? And there's different times for different jobs, different spaces in our life to create different things. If life is crazy, we're having a hard time getting out of bed, then our mantra is, get out of bed, get out of bed, get out of bed. But if life is pretty balanced and our feet are pretty firm on the ground, then we can really start to get a little bit more constructive. So back 4 years ago when I started yoga because of health issues, insomnia, asthma, blowing my knees, doing ridiculous sports. And I wanted to be able to do the things I love until the day I died. And I absolutely hated yoga. In my 20s, I used to have to have a double vodka martini to go to yoga because I was used to high impact contact sports, right? So it was a little bit dull. And so I'd be like, I love yoga, I love yoga. Because if I didn't go to yoga and I didn't do yoga, my knees hurt like hell. If I did yoga, I didn't hurt. And then eventually, right, I learned to love it. And then I became super in love with it. And so find a mantra that works to help you kind of reprogram yourself to love the things you need and let go of the things that keep causing you unnecessary pain. Now that we've found the rhythm of the breath, we've reflected on what we truly need, see if you can come up with a really simple vision statement, a mantra, a reminder, a prayer of what it is you truly wish to create. And fire up your feet. Think about the inside of your leg opening as if your hands were on the outside. Think about the outside of the leg closing as if your fingers were pulling from the inside. Pull in your belly. Lift your knees. Press into your feet. So Dwayne, you might not lift the pelvis because of the blocks, but the rest of us, we lift the pelvis and we notice how the skin kind of just moves away from the low back. Because we release the fascia, it'll lengthen the low back. And then we bring the pelvis down. We bring our knees to touch. We heel toe the feet apart. We pigeon toe so that the baby toe edge of the foot is straight. So we just did external rotation. Now we're doing internal rotation. And one day we want those two movements to be somewhat similar. Push into your big toe mound. Push into your baby toe mound. Push into the mounds in between. Push into your heel, all the quarters of the heel, right? Even that spot that was hard to connect with when we were using those little balls. And then imagine there's little balloons underneath your arches and lift up those arches. Nice. Inhale to reach your arms up over the shoulders like a zombie. Interlace your fingers, right hand on top of left. Pull the elbows apart, thumbs touch, hands are floating over the sternum, wrists are as high as the elbows. So hands are right over that chest plate. We're pulling the elbows apart. Elbows are as high as the wrist. There's no wrinkles in the wrists. So let's commit to our pinky fingers and our ring fingers. Number one, because they're home to the heart meridian, right? Number two, because with elder people, those are the first two fingers to go, okay? So we don't want them to go. We want to just keep them working for the rest of our life. Push your elbows down onto a table. Without moving them, lift your elbows up off the table. So the elbows are pushing down, the elbows are lifting up, and we take the humerus bone, the bone between our elbow and our shoulder, that upper arm bone, and we pull it out of the shoulder sockets just right so that our neck feels fabulous. And then we're going to flip our palms away from us and to us without the elbows moving. Without the pinky fingers sliding. Now today, remember our intention, probably a little bit of healing, right? So we're going to do our best not to forget about those pinky fingers, right? Because we all want our winter season to be fabulous. When we're 90, we want to have happy wrists. So we're going to keep those pinky and ring fingers working. We're not going to let them slip away today. We're going to flip our palms away from us. We're going to straighten and bend at the wrists. Fingers aren't going to change at all. We're going to exhale and bend at the elbows. Wrists, elbows, shoulders level. Inhale to straighten, exhale to bend. So a lot of us have a right dominant side and that elbow is spiking up. So see if you can keep those elbows symmetrical as we do this posture. There should be zero pain. Now the hardest thing to hear in yoga is that less is more, right? We're very, very programmed. No pain, no gain. And if we have an injury or we have a body part that's saying, yo, you're pissing me off, it's giving us pain, it's just an indicator that we need to pay a little bit more attention to it and push it less hard, not push it harder, which is the trickiest part, right? So if you've got a spot that's talking to you, you do 50% of what you can. So if my wrists are kind of sensitive and I can straighten completely, I'm not going to straighten completely, I'm going to do less. And I'm going to give those wrists a chance to kind of be like, ah. So straighten as much as is comfortable, bend a little bit if you need less, don't lose those fingers. Let the shoulders relax away from the ears, and with a nice inhalation, you're going to bring your arms towards your ears without popping the ribs. So you want to think about the back ribs rooting into the bolster. And if the arms go past your ears, you definitely popped your ribs. So you bring those arms back towards the ears. Close your eyes. Breathe. Maybe mantra. Continuously focusing on your body from the inside. Focus on your nostrils. Like a bull, expand your nostrils in all directions. Expand your nostrils from the opening right up into the skull. Notice that when you inhale, the breath enters the nostrils slightly cool. Noticing when you exhale, the breath exits the nostrils just a little bit warmer. Again, the winter of your life, do you want to be snoring? Do you want to have sleep apnea? Do you want to have to sleep in separate rooms from your partner or your friends? These are all choices. Broaden those nostrils. Focus on your nostrils. Mind-body connection to your nostrils. Your nostrils have an erectile function that if we don't use it, we lose it. And so if we mouth breathe all the time, we can do nothing but mouth breathe. And we've started mouth breathing so much that our palates have changed. Our mouth shape is adapting. Take 5 more big, beautiful breaths here and feel that breath as it enters and exits your nostrils. And then when you're ready, lean into your back ribs to bring those arms back up and over the chest. Bend your elbows straight out, flip your palms, release those arms beside you, let those arms melt. Let the shoulders relax. Big, beautiful breaths. And so Dwayne, if it becomes too much to be on the blocks, you just come off the blocks anytime you like. Heel toe the feet in, take your knees a little wide, walk the feet away from you a little bit, lift up your pelvis, give it a little wiggle, right? Lengthen the flesh away from the low back, and then choose. Do you want to do a Baddha Konasana? Do you want to do a creeper? So creeper would be stability, cobbler would be external rotation, stretch, right? But you keep those feet active. Snow plow would be internal rotation. So pick the pose you think you need the most, right? You choose. And then find your breath here. Big, beautiful breaths. And then interlace your fingers. This time the left fingers are on top of the right. Thumbs are going to tap, elbows pull apart, right? Elbows and wrists at a shoulder's height. Take the arm bones just right out of the shoulders. Commit to your pinkies. Flip your palms away from you. Flip your palms to you. You're pulling with the elbows evenly, and you can keep an eye on that by having the hands continuously over the sternum, the chest plate. Neck is neutral, so try and look with your eyeballs, not your chin. You don't want 3 chins here. And then flip your palms away. See if you can bring the pinky fingers a little lower and the thumb fingers a little higher without losing the ring in the pinky. Straighten the arms, but don't bend at the fingers, bend at the wrists. And then bend at the elbows, bend at the wrists. Without the humerus bones moving inside the shoulders, we're going to straighten and bend the elbows. Noticing if one elbow goes higher or lower and trying to get them symmetrical. And finding the back floating ribs and gently pushing them down into the bolster. And the next time we straighten the arms, we're going to straighten the arms to hold, and then nice and slow, we're going to bring those arms towards the ears. Just taking our time. Focus on your body, focus on your breath. What's happening to your ring and pinky fingers? Remember, that's your priority, and if you need to bend your elbows and do less to bring your mind and your strength to that part of your hand, then that's what you do. We're always going to do what we're good at. And then broaden those nostrils and feel that breath moving in and out through your nostrils. And plant that seed of intention to be able to breathe through your nose until the day you die. It seems so silly, so simple, but yet so peaceful. And not attained by that many people. And go inside your nostrils and imagine that you could expand all the way up into your skull. Feel that breath as it enters cool all the way up into your skull. Notice that breath as it exits from your skull through your nose. Can you feel it through the whole passage of your nose? If you need to do less, do less. As we take 10 more big, beautiful rounds of breath in through our nose, out through our nose. And once those 10 breaths are complete, bring those arms back up and over, bend your elbows, flip your palms, release those arms beside you. Bring your legs back to neutral, press into your feet. Last time, traction your back, straighten both legs. Start with the feet in neutral rotation so the toes and the knees are pointing up towards the sky, and then let those legs relax. Broaden your nostrils. Focus on your body from the inside. Feel the space within your skin. Let's take 10 rounds of breath. Let's do our best to plant a seed of intention with each and every one of those breaths. And then bending your knees, walking your feet towards your seat. Pick up your pelvis, give it a little wiggle. Move it a little bit more to the left. Roll off to your right. And then push yourself up, keeping a nice straight spine. Then we're going to take a bolster, or no bolster in your case, Dwayne. If you need padding, just grab a pillow, but you're probably fine without. But most of us in the room today, we're going to use a bolster because we have it, and because it's a full moon, so why not use the fish? And just training ourselves. We don't have to do our max, right? I love that about the line. It's like, do less. Like scheduling. All right. So you're going to have your knees and your feet at hips distance apart. Tuck those toes. I always like to knead them because if I use my toes, my knees, I'm not going to feel them on the weight, okay? And then I'm going to bring my blocks in a little bit closer, and I'm going to step that right foot forward. And I'm going to walk the blocks forward, and I can take the blocks to either side of my knee, right? So sometimes it's nice to bring those blocks in, to pull in our belly, to step that right foot forward, walk those blocks forward, walk that foot forward. And then if you want to flank it, you can. If you want to keep the blocks on the inside, you can. And we're not going for our deepest, right? We're just going to start moderate. So that the shin's at a 90, and the thigh can be at a little bit of an angle today, but we're not going super deep. We want our hips level, so I can't stand it when I see this. Like a lot of people go so deep into these poses, and their pelvis twists, which is the worst thing for our backs, right? So then we're going to bring our hand to our knee, and just like we did before, my hand is going to push, right? And then my hand is going to pull. So stabilizing my knee in these postures is so important, right? And so some people, our knee likes to go out, some people, our knee likes to go in, and so we just kind of muscle memory those muscles that'll keep the knee in the right spot. And then I want that shin at a 90, right? Just because learning to stabilize it keeps it from pain, and a lot of bodies, if it goes forward, it just gets tweaky on the knee. Most people don't have that flexibility, so kind of push on the knee, push back. And then I like to take my thumb underneath, and just kind of lift my thumb into my knee and push my kneecap back on the knee. So that connection is going to keep me from going forward, and that's where a lot of people get loosey-goosey. Good? So finding that. And then bringing both hands onto the blocks. Find your fingers, find your palms. If I'm using my fingers, I can pick up those blocks. And then not only are my wrists stoked, but I'm strengthening my fingers so that one day I can stand on my hands and not feel them, right? So again, you may not care if you do an arm balance now, and it doesn't matter if you ever do, but you may as well be strong enough to, right? And if you use your blocks, one day you will be strong enough, whether you do it or not, okay? Then lift your heel, drop your heel a couple times. Drop your heel, lift your toes, drop your toes. And then toes down, heel down. Don't let this right knee move. Lift that back knee to straighten it. Now in the spring, I like to bring the heel forward. In the winter, I like to take my heel back and stretch the Achilles, right? So allow the heel to go back. Not to as far back as it can go, but almost as far back as it can go. Use your fingers, use your palms, and just breathe here. Nice big, beautiful breaths. The knee hasn't moved at all. Good, and then we're going to drop that knee back down onto the bolster without the front knee moving, and we're going to see if we can lift that back foot up. Let's just engaging the hamstring, not moving the pelvis, not moving the knee, just see if you can lift that foot. And if you can't, you can't, and that's a hamstring cramp probably. Yeah. It's adducting. Most bodies don't do it, and so it's very healthy for us, but it cramps. Right? And then bring your hand onto your knee, lift up your chest. Now reach into those elbows and see if you might like to twist. Right? But the knee's not allowed to move. Some of us might like to do like a rainbow arm and reach back and take the foot. But this front knee's not moving. Some of us might like to kick our foot into our hand and pull our foot with our hand. Right? And reach and just breathe here. And we'll do the quad stretch both ways. Lean into those back floating ribs to twist deeper. Let's go 10 more breaths here. And wherever you're at is fabulous. Just keep that knee stable. So you see how the knee came forward? So knee back, knee back, knee back. So hand on knee is such a good option for you. And here's one a little bit forward, or the foot can come forward, either way. Good. And then sweep that rainbow arm back forward, hands on the blocks, find your fingers, find your palms, keep your shin straight, push into that back heel to straighten the leg. Right? So winter we wear boots all the time, so I like to stretch those ankles out. Spring we ditch the boots, we need to create the muscles that act like boots to support our ankle. We start hiking, biking, so we do more stability. I think we still have maybe 25 days till spring, something like that. Not like I'm counting. Good. And then drop down onto that knee. Keep that toe down. Walk the front knee forward, the front foot forward without twisting the pelvis. Right? So we're not going to twist like I demoed before. So the pelvis is level. We walk that knee forward, so we're getting a little more groin. We get the knee level. We can bring our hands forward. We can drop down onto those blocks. We could even bring our hands onto the floor. And then just breathing here. Big, beautiful breaths. So this is more of like a groin stretch. We've gone deeper into the hips. And just so people kind of get what the body is like, it's really similar to other habits, right? Like, so I have a habit of the knee, just bring this a tiny bit forward, where, my groins pull into my knee from an old injury that, if I forget to do these lunges for a week, I start to feel my knee again. It takes more than a week, but you get the idea. Even after all these years, that habit's still there. Just like if something bad happens, even though I haven't smoked a cigarette in 20 years, I still want a cigarette. If something really bad happens, I'm like, why am I thinking I want a cigarette? It's the same. It's like these habitual behaviors that are super deep. And again, come up. Do you need to do less? Do you need to do more? And then just see if you can lift that back knee by pushing the heel back. So remember it's spring and it'll go deeper, but you don't have to, right? If your job is to do less, you don't have to lift that knee. And then drop that knee down. Good. Lift up that ankle. Maybe the hand comes to the knee. Maybe you twist without that front knee moving. Maybe you do a rainbow. Maybe you grab the foot. Maybe you kick. If you're kicking, maybe you pull. Or anywhere in between. But this front knee doesn't move. And so just like I have a knee habit, right? Everybody has a habit, right? You just have to figure out your physical habit. What you need to do so you suffer less. And then when you're ready, we're going to release, we're going to sweep it through. Let's bring our hands back onto those blocks. Let's walk those blocks back. Let's bring that foot back. Both blocks on the inside of the foot, pick up that leg, bring it around, do a little forward and back. I think they call these cars. I call them dogs. Different type of dog. And then down. Good. Tuck your toes. See if you can bring your weight back onto those feet. Maybe you can bring your weight right back. Maybe you can come back here. Maybe you put a block on your heels, which makes it a lot easier for some people, but we're trying to stretch out those toes a little bit. Shoulders back, heart center lifts. Or maybe you're still here. Wherever you like. Let's take 5 breaths here. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, we come forward, we walk the hands forward into a tabletop, knees and feet at hips distance apart. I like to then bring my blocks in front of my right thigh, use my fingers, use my palms, lift up that leg, and see if I can step it through. Right? And then I'm going to bring my blocks forward. All these balls there. And then take the blocks so that they're flagging the leg, or if it's easier for you and feels more comfortable for the blocks on the inside, that's also an option, right? And so for this first round, we're going to bring that foot a little bit forward without twisting the pelvis, but we're not going to go to our depth, right? Remember, we're doing 2 sets. Find that shin at a 90, and then you're going to take your hand, your left hand, and you're going to find the inner outer knee connected. So my hand on the outer knee, I push. My fingers on the inside of the knee, I pull. My hand on the kneecap, right? And then this one I love because, this kind of keeps the knee from going back. I take my thumb, I bring it down, and I push my kneecap into my thumb. So if you're someone where that knee creeps forward, Keith, then what you're looking for is shin and kneecap pushing back. Which is, if you find this connection, oh my gosh, your knees are going to love it. Right, so let's do this one more time. Take your thumb, you can even do a fist, and put it into the back of your knee. And then with as much might as you have, lift up into the knee, but the knee pushes back onto that fist. It's just traction in your knee, it's lovely, right? And then once we've found that, we're going to find our fingers, we're going to find our palms, right? Hands back is more of a wrist stretch, hands forward is less of a wrist stretch, so find what's right for you. Left knee doesn't move. This time we push into the Achilles to straighten the leg. Right? And don't go all the way. Lift that heel a little bit so you're not at the edge of what you can do, but you're doing a little bit less. And then just breathing here. Use your fingers, squish those blocks into the floor. Keep that pelvis level. Think about the left leg bone pulling into the hip. Think about the right leg bone pulling into the hip. Shins level. Beautiful. Everybody's breathing. then nice and slow, without moving the front knee, move the heel forward to bring your knee down. Good. We forgot to do the ankle lift, so we're going to lift that left heel up and bring it down 3 times. And then we're going to lift the toes up and bring them down 3 times without the knee moving. And then bring those toes down. And then take your left hand to your knee. Now this is where we want to think about the placement of the humerus bones, because if those arm bones come in, there's no twisting, right? So you reach those arm bones out to facilitate the twist. We pick up that back leg, right? We can think inner knee, outer knee connection, traction my knee connection. You could do it here. Little mini micro bend in that right elbow. Maybe you find a rainbow. Clean the clock, grab the foot, kick the foot into the hand. If the foot is kicking, then you can pull the heel to the butt. And this is all prep for what's coming in the spring, which is good. Now, can you bring that foot further forward? Yeah, keep coming, so that it's not here, that this shin can walk on it. So to twist, we lean into the back ribs, we lengthen on that left side, and then we get more of a twist. But the knee doesn't move. Let's go 5 more breaths here. Yay, lunges. Love them. I love lunges, I love lunges, I love lunges. And release the foot, toe down, unwind, hands on the blocks. Now without twisting the pelvis, you're going to walk that left foot a little bit forward now that we've warmed up our groins. And we can go lower on the blocks if we fancy, but we want to make sure that the fingers and the palms are able to do their job. Know their business, right? And then the knee and the shin are level. We're not punching our back. Wrists are stoked. And then maybe or maybe not, we lift up that back knee. This season, we're pushing into our heel. Now remember what it was like to traction the back of the knee and push the kneecap back, so that we're not moving forward, we're not moving back, but we're learning to stabilize. When we're stabilizing, we're not like a leaf blowing in the wind. It's because we're using muscles. And muscles are very good. Let's go 10 more breaths here. Pull your groins apart and lengthen from inner groin to inner knee. Inner knee to inner ankle to big toe end. And then dropping down onto that back knee. See if you can pick up that back foot. You can always move those wrists forward if you want to soften it. Hand on knee, maybe you twist. And here you want to lengthen this left side of your torso. Remember last week where we lengthened from hip to armpit? We leaned into the back ribs because we were working our twists. And then we could find a rainbow without our knee moving. We could grab the foot, kick the foot into the hand. If we're doing that, we could pull the heel to our booty. Or not. Right? Just breathing wherever you're at. And you can always do last, right? You can always go back to that first stage. Let's take 10 more breaths here. And then when those 10 breaths are complete, bring your rainbow arm around. Good. Tuck that back toe. Bring the blocks both onto the right side. Walk those blocks back. Walk that foot back. Find a place where you can stabilize and just move that hip in and out a couple times like a puppy that's found a fire hydrant. And then knees down, toes down, and see if you can sit back. So again, this is an option for stretching those toes. I really like a block under the heels is a really good option, right? Or you can sit right back onto those heels. Relax your shoulders and breathe. And then if it's comfortable, you can push yourself over into a squat from here. If that's not comfortable, you come forward, you take your feet out to one side, you can just kind of come onto your butt from there. You can come off the bolster with your knees. And then we're going to bring the bolster behind us. And we're going to lift up and sit on our bolster, and we're going to bring our feet in. And we're going to weave our fingers between our toes. Okay, so our pinky finger goes between our pinky toe and our second toe, and then we just go up the fingers from there. So you stay in Baddha Konasana. If you can't do Baddha Konasana, you can do it 1 foot at a time here. But what it looks like is this. So my fingers are between my toes, right? Now I want to avoid the knuckle, but if I'm a seasoned toe stretcher, I can come right up to where my fingers meet my hands. But again, you might want to just keep more of the fingernails in there if this is a new practice for you. And you can let your back curl a little bit. We're not trying to be too epic. Right, and then bring those feet in. Relax your shoulders. Now take your pinky fingers and lean your pinky fingers into your toes. Exhale to squeeze the toes. And then inhale, toes, squeeze fingers.
I'm still trying to get my fingers back.
Yeah. And if you can't get them in, that's good info, right? And that's plantar fasciitis stuff for sure. And then what I would suggest is going to the dollar store and getting toe spreaders and wearing them when you vacuum. And if you don't vacuum, wear them when you do something else for 30 minutes. And so you're just going back and forth, fingers squeezing toes, toes squeezing fingers. So I did a trip to Japan, a cycling trip, and I met this woman. My girlfriend had lived in Japan for quite some time, and she took me to meet her yoga teacher. And she was like 80s, like 83, 84, and she was teaching 80s, 90-year-old women. And this is what I mean. Sometimes you see people, and I've always looked for women older that were doing well physically and mentally, right? And I've loved to study with these women, and I've been privileged to travel the world. So my girlfriend Sherry found this woman in Japan, told me about her. I came to Japan. It wasn't my destination, but I hit that place to meet this woman. And there was like 20 women, 80s, 90s, all sitting on the floor, right? No yoga mats, no bolsters, no blocks. They were all doing these toe stretches, and the teacher had just come back from a 2-week hike. I'm like, show me your ways. And she practiced laughing yoga. I know it was like a very fancy name sounding in Japanese, right? But she called it laughing yoga, and she learned it in India, and she learned it in her 40s. And these women were all in really good shape because this one human decided to just keep doing laughing yoga, right? And then toes are going to squeeze the fingers to hold, and just hold, and just hold. And at the end of class, you'd be sitting there and she'd just come up, and without warning you, she'd do shiatsu on your spine. And I'm weird about people touching me, and I was like, but then of course I loved it. Super cool chick. All right, and then toes are gonna relax just a little bit, and then fingers are gonna squeeze toes. And she started every class with this. Every single class. Big, beautiful breaths. And those women had great feet. a pain, but it's, if you're not used to stretching your toes, it's a lot. And then you're going to release those toes. You're going to bring those knees up. You're going to take your heels, put them in front of you. Knees are going to be kind of wherever they end up. You can go to the outside or the inside. You can do 1 foot at a time if you like. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sort of knuckles that meet my hand, and I'm going to curl my toes, and then I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to push the toe mound back. So I'll show you. So like the base of my fingers comes to my toes and curls them, and then my fingertips are going to push back on the toe mounds. So this foot that we do all the time, it's like an assisted stretch, right? And I'm going to keep my feet flexed as I do it. And like I said, just find what works for your body, right? It could be, something like this, right? Or if you can't grab your feet, you can just, there you go. One at a time might work better, Keith. Right. And then you just go to the other one, and you could do it at a slight angle if you needed to. So the fingers are going to push up into the mounds, the fingers are going to curl the toes. And then we do the counter, which is like an assisted stretch, Barbie foot. So for this one, I'm going to put the base of my fingers on my toes. My fingers are going to wrap around and hold the mounds, right? So it's just like an assisted Barbie foot. Right, so my base of my fingers comes to my toes and pulls my toes back. My knuckles come around my toe mounds, and I push my toe mounds into my knuckles, and I pull back on my toes. And again, I could find a way to do this, and we're just holding one way for now. I like to do this stuff in the bath or the hot tub. And again, schedule it. If you don't schedule shit, it just doesn't happen, right? Like I've done yoga, many years, and still it's in my phone. It has an alarm, and it has a 15-minute buffer because I know I'm going to procrastinate. So I know how much I need, and I give myself that time plus 15 minutes because I know I'm going to try reading something, or I want to put on a different song, or whatever. The human brain is weird. Right? So we have to have realistic expectations of ourselves, right? Make it like, I could never have a 6 a.m. practice because there's no way in hell I would do it. I know that. So I, created space in my life where I can have a, 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock or, different days, different times. And then when you're ready, let's go 5 more breaths. I like this one because it stretches the toes and strengthens both, but also does the fingers at the same time. And then see if you can go back and forth between one foot and the other foot. Just a couple times. So from your crow foot to your Barbie foot, right? So from a crow, bird on a wire, to a Barbie. If your feet are ever cold, this will warm them up. This little routine from Japan, laughing yoga. Nice, and then when you're ready, we're going to come off the bolster. We're going to take either a hand or an elbow or a forearm. We're going to hug those legs in, and it could just be here, and we're going to do less. We're going to walk our feet in, we're going to lift those feet, relax the shoulders. Maybe we can balance here, maybe we keep our feet down. We're just going to close our eyes, and we're going to keep our eyes closed. Right, so we're going to see if we can find some balance without external help. Okay, and we could be here, just holding on to our fingers or our hand, pulling those arm bones in. And then slow as you can, you're just going to think about straightening out your legs. Just super, super slow. If you can do it without opening your eyes, do it without opening your eyes. And let it be effortless. And then just big, beautiful breaths. Pulling those arm bones into the shoulders. And then bending, bringing those feet back down. Let your spine kind of curl, let your forehead start to come down towards your knees, whatever that looks like. And then swapping, interlacing. So swapping the arms, wherever the arms are, do the opposite. Maybe you grab the fingers or the hands of that arm. Walk your feet in as best you can. Straighten out your spine. Pull those arms in. And just lean back and just see if you can lift those feet. Or maybe just one foot. Right? Rome wasn't built in a day. When I started yoga, I used to have a very strong cocktail. Right? Like, you have to just be where we're at. You know, I was just so bored in class, and here I am obsessing about toes and armpits. And then nice and slow, bring your calves up. And just go to where you can hold it. Doesn't matter if you can close your eyes, bonus points. Broaden your nostrils and breathe. Big, beautiful breaths. How's everybody's feet feel? Right? Circulation. Blood and oxygen into those toes. And then nice and slow, bend those knees. Let those feet come down. Let the soles of the feet clap. Let the knees come apart. And just come forward over those feet. And if you've had a big old week and your forehead doesn't touch your feet, find somewhere where the forehead can touch. It's really calming for your nervous system. And like I said, in full moons, we can get a little bit like, whoop, whoop. Big inhales, big exhales. Let's just go 5 more breaths here. See if you can plant a seed of intention with those 5 breaths. And then coming up, draw those knees to one another. Let's take that bolster underneath our legs, feet down, make a nice C with our spine. Again, you can do the wedge if you like. You know, coming down this way is nice. I really like the wedge. But that's me. You do you, whatever feels comfy. This is a nice way to do Shavasana. I like to try and relax my hips. So something that's really mellow for my hips. We did quite a lot of hip work today. Sweaters and socks can be nice. I'm going to ditch the big light. And then just be super grateful for yourself. You know, the biggest part of creating good habits is to kind of acknowledge when you've taken a step in that direction. Instead of saying half empty, say half full, right? Instead of saying, oh, I didn't start yoga last year. Say, oh, I did yoga tonight. Right on. Feels good. And then when you're ready, very slowly, very gently, starting to wake up your body from the inside by deepening your breath. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Nice big inhale, stretch your arms. Exhale to let your arms fall down heavy as you bend your knees, walk your feet towards your seat, pick up your pelvis, give it a little wiggle. Move your hips to the left, roll off to the right, push yourself up, come to a comfortable seated position, something that works for your body. Hands coming into Namaskara. We're going to end with a nice big group Om before we dedicate the merit of our practice. May we use this class to be mindful that it's through gratitude that we create the most fertile soil upon which we plant seeds of intention. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your practice. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste, everybody. Happy Moon. Bye, Dwayne. Bye, Elisa. Bye, Steamers. Be well.